All right, thank you guys again for sticking with us this afternoon. We have our final session. It's the keynote closing remarks presented by Pat White, my co-founder and CEO of Bitwave.
That was awesome. I got surprised at that yesterday, and it is spectacular. Thank you guys so much for sticking through. This is going to be really fun. This is my favorite. It's 45 minutes, but I think we're going to be able to. We'll do 40 minutes so we get out to happy hour. It's between me, you, and happy hour right now, so I'm going to be careful about that great responsibility. This is my favorite 45 minutes of the entire year because it's both a chance for me to say a few words about the crypto industry in general, and then talk deeply about a bunch of new stuff coming in Bitwave. So we have a tremendous number of demos to show. It's going to be really, really, really fun. I am so excited. Let's see if this works. All right, so the state of the industry, this is, we're going to take a few minutes here to talk a little bit about the industry over the last 10 months. So I had the privilege of giving this exact same talk exactly 10 months ago at EDAS 2022 here in Austin. And, if this were any other industry, you would kind of say that it's an almost unbelievable amount of change has happened over the last 10 months. But because this is crypto, that's actually not... but even for crypto, it's been a pretty volatile 10 months here. 10 months ago, I don't think anyone would have necessarily believed you that SPF and Do Kwon would both be under arrest at this moment, and yet here we are with that as a situation. So, the state of the industry, I've sort of broken it down to two high-level buckets here, which is you have the macro and then we have the micro. So we'll start with the macro because honestly, when I look around the room, it's not like all of us have changed. We're all kind of the same person we were, maybe a little bit better, maybe we work out more, things like that, than we were about 10 months ago. But boy, oh boy, has the world itself changed. So let's go back to November of 22, heading into the end of the year. It was a casual, Sunday morning, Monday morning, something like that. And suddenly the news breaks that FTX is, I won't say a giant Ponzi scheme, but it is essentially imploding on itself and completely failing. 2022 overall had been maybe tepid, not the most exciting year, not the biggest bull market, but it had been a steady, everyone was kind of in a good mood kind of year. The FTX debacle happens, and suddenly a lot of people sort of took a breath. It was one of those moments in crypto where everyone kind of looked at this company that is, so well capitalized, so well known, so trusted. Gosh, they had so many different, race cars with their logo on it. It was almost hard to believe that company was failing in kind of a fraudulent way. And I know even for me, I'm like, gosh, if someone like FTX can't even make it, what does that say for the rest of us? But that sort of belied a deeper point that I think a lot of us that have been in crypto for a long time felt this deep frustration about. And that, obviously frustration breeds kind of discontent. And we were all super frustrated that essentially FTX had this massive failure moment in a way that wasn't really tied to crypto. FTX was started by a Jane Street trader who was upset with the limited number of financial instruments that he could use to trade crypto. And if there's a less crypto-y kind of way to talk about the world, that's it. That's the worst crypto way to talk about the world because crypto's never been about financial instruments. It's been about base protocols and controlling your own keys and all that kind of stuff. So we get to November 2022. The FTX happens. There's kind of a lot of sad faces around. We enter into a kind of a brief crypto. We enter into winter and crypto winter, the winter of our collective discontents. And then something kind of funny happened in March, which is, one day we all woke up and this bank that, I have this funny connection with SVB because I've been in startups almost my entire life. Like literally, my first job out of college was with a online poker company. That's, weird, but it was super fun. The CEO got arrested one day coming off a plane from Malta. Different story for a different day. But I've been in startups my entire life. And honestly, one of the things that's happened from that is that I have been invited or been to a SVB event every single month for the last 20 years that I've lived in San Francisco. And so this idea that this bank that was this near, constant presence in my life up and just went insolvent and disappeared overnight is almost unbelievable in a lot of ways. But in the same way that we in the crypto industry took a collective breath when FTX failed, we all kind of took another collective breath when SVB failed, because it was this really interesting moment where a lot of us remembered why we got into crypto in the first place. This notion of, Satoshi, chancellor on brink of second bank bailout, and then Yellen says, oh, we're never going to bail out SVB, and then puts together a bailout package. I mean, there was this moment where we all kind of remembered a little bit about why we were so passionate about a separate financial infrastructure that had no kind of overarching governance that was, twisting and pulling the levers as they saw fit, not as the system itself saw fit. And that actually injected so much new energy into crypto. It was pretty good. Like, I'm not going to say we're in this like rip roaring bull market right now. I'm not going to say we're, a rocket ship emoji. This is not financial advice. But we're back in this moment where everyone's excited, everyone's working on stuff, and everyone's starting to build again. And so that's the macro condition that we kind of see here coming into now, whatever it is, April, end of April here. We're seeing life, we're seeing excitement around crypto, we're seeing new use cases. And it's funny, like if you had actually asked me, the biggest tokens that would come out of 2023, we would have talked about things. I've talked at the beginning of the year, we would have talked about maybe exchange tokens and how that was working. We would have talked about things like that. But the biggest token actually did not end up being that. One of the big tokens we saw was USDC suddenly coming to its own, where one day everyone woke up and realized, hey, not only is USDC a way to make payments, not only is USDC a way to move money around, USDC is actually a single-click way to do a hedge against bank risk by going into an asset that is 70% T-bills and 30% spread across 7 different banks that I'm sure over the course of the next year they're going to diversify into 100 banks after the SVB scare. And so we started seeing new use cases around crypto, which is even more exciting. And that sort of defined the macro economy. Now let's get into the micro here, which is super exciting and obviously something that we want to sort of talk about here. So the first thing that I would love to talk about is that you've heard this, people talk about this is not a bull market, a bear market, it's a build market. I do tend to actually agree with that. Like, it's markets like this where people get to hunker down and work on really cool projects. That's why we brought the Superfluid guys up on stage, because they've done a lot of this work, their kind of foundational work during this kind of bear market that we're sitting in right now. Overall dev commitments to open source blockchain projects are up. I'm going to talk next about Shanghai, about the ETH2 movement, but that's a direct correlation to that. At the end of the day, we just saw the most amazing move into a progression of a blockchain upgrade of an infrastructure that we've ever seen as a kind of a financial industry, and that's related to developers and businesses still building around it. So really exciting times to be a developer in this space right now. That leads me, of course, to the ETH2 Shanghai update, and it's with all things that are slow moving, which Shanghai, ETH2 was slow moving. It started about 2 years ago. So it's that scene in Austin Powers where there's the steamroller coming towards him at like 1 inch a second, and he still gets flattened. You kind of lose perspective on how incredible things are when they do tend to creep up on you. And ETH2 is one of those things where it's almost hard to express how incredible it is that we took Ethereum from a proof-of-work network to a proof-of-stake network with no major downtime, no major outages, no major monetary losses, no major hacks. Even banks have downtime when they upgrade their systems. Like, you as a bank, you are moving from an AS400 to something else. Like, you take a weekend downtime. Ethereum didn't get to do that. This is an incredible testament to the engineering power of this infrastructure layer that we're building here, that essentially it's a always-on platform that can move and be upgraded underneath it and do something in the sense that of actually making hard decisions, like going from proof of work to proof of stake for, honestly, really sustainability reasons. It was one of the major drivers here. So it's not only amazing to think about ETH, it's not only a great time to actually look at Ethereum and say, wow, there's something real here, because this just tells a story about longevity. It tells a story about the ability to run an incredibly complex system for long periods of time over a long period. So it adds confidence. This is, one of those things we've had as a theme throughout the day is can your board get confident with blockchain? Can it get comfortable? Can it build that confidence? Seeing the ETH2 upgrade happen tells that story in a remarkable way. But the other part, of course, is that now we're in a much better position in terms of sustainability for Ethereum. Like, everyone is super excited to have Ethereum be proof of stake. We're down 99.99% on energy usage. That tells a great story for ESG purposes. It tells a great story to the board. It tells a great story about why we should be adopting digital assets. So ETH2 was one of those things that I like. It kind of snuck up on us, but it is a remarkable achievement that we should not actually forget about here. We already talked about the year of payments. There was another picture I was going to use, which was a little kid with a Fisher-Price cash register. But I thought that might be a little too on the nose for crypto. I don't know. It was right there for it. But this is the year of payments. We've talked about it at length. I almost don't have anything else to say about it. But you look at these numbers. I love this. So $30 billion in USDC in circulation with $25 billion transfer daily value. That goes up and down. So let's call it somewhere between 15 and 25. That's actually really remarkable. If you look at like cash statistics, so USD cash statistics and how M1, M2 money moves, this actually kind of puts it to shame. So it is this idea that you can have this enormous, the ratio between those, this idea that you can have this asset that has almost 1-to-1 M1 to M2 movement over the course of a day is almost incredible. Like, that actually is really, really, really cool when you think about it in the abstract. So it's not the only reason we think this is the year of payments. We've talked about that ad nauseum, but it's one of the things that it's jumping out that like real money is moving hands on a daily value that is absolutely noteworthy, and we can kind of start to believe in. NFTs are growing up. So I'm not sure that the way that I want to grow up is to get an IRS notice, but I don't know, maybe it's the way a lot of us grow up. You get that tax bill, and suddenly you realize you're not a kid anymore. But that happened with NFTs, where actually the IRS did a whole notice just on NFTs, which is kind of also incredible. Like, and I'm not sure it's, Rob and I were joking about it, and I continue to think it's pretty funny that they chose literally the narrowest thing in the entire world, which is NFTs sitting inside of a retirement account, of which there's probably the dude who bought the Beeple. Maybe he's like the only guy that has this. But you know what? Like, any sort of precedent, any sort of letter you're going to do is good. And it's great to see the IRS is actually making a motion here. The other thing that we've seen this year, which is spectacular, is brands getting into NFTs. And that's going to continue throughout the rest of 2023 here. And there is nothing better for the state of the industry than this right here. So Reddit just did one of their big drops. It was a phenomenal success. I mean, every time Reddit does a drop, it's this huge success. Hundreds of thousands of tokens minted. Everyone wishes they had gotten more, which is probably a good sign of a healthy economy that's happening. Everyone wishes they'd gotten a better one. They wish they'd bought more, stuff like that. Starbucks has gotten into with their Odyssey program. They're seeing that happening. Nike did a virtual sneaker drop. Again, there weren't enough to go around. It sold out in seconds on the blockchain, things like that. Nickelodeon, I mean, come on, my childhood right there. That's pretty fun. Hot Wheels did one too. It didn't make the cut for the slide here. But that was actually pretty cool to see Hot Wheels do an NFT drop. So brands are understanding brands that are brands. And like, you think about Nike, you think about Nickelodeon, and Budweiser is another great example. There are brands, Budweiser just makes beer. There's a lot of people that make beer. Budweiser's a brand. Nickelodeon makes TV shows for kids. There's a lot of that, and the quality is kind of questionable if it matters or not. These are brands that are engaging with their super fans through new avenues on Web3. That's what gets so exciting about this. That's why there's so much staying power and longevity in this industry right here. Is that we're seeing the brands actually latch onto this stuff. So I am super happy to invite on stage Lorenzo Melendez, who is Pudgy Penguins is a Bitwave customer. We are partnering with them in a lot of ways. Come on stage, buddy. Pudgy is working on driving forward the frontier of what it means to be an NFT brand, an NFT company in this world here. So Lorenzo, like, please take it away. I'd love to, learn a little bit about, tell us about Pudgy in the abstract, but then also tell us about how you guys are actually trying to push the industry forward and not just be a profile picture, but actually expand out of it, because that's what's so exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So Pudgy Penguins really started as a cute penguin on the blockchain. But I think when we took over the project, we saw that the vision is a lot greater than that. And so what does that actually mean, right? You see all these apes, penguins, all in the blockchain. What do? Our thesis is like, can we create a character brand that touches hundreds of millions of people? And the underlying asset behind that brand that holds that influence that can ultimately be monetized is actually held by the community itself through these NFTs. And so we've basically been creating a bunch of content over the last 9 months. And so the brand has expanded from basically no followers, no likes, to almost 500,000 followers on Instagram, 3.3 billion views on Giphy. I mean, we get people and their moms sending, their children goodnight gifts of Pudgy penguins, and that resonates with people. So it's really about how do you create that connection with somebody, and we don't want to push the NFT onto them because that's really not what it's about, right? The blockchain is a medium for ownership that we believe, and so if you want to own the underlying asset, you can by purchasing a Pudgy penguin, but that's not how you have to participate in our ecosystem.
And I love this because we so often talk about someone like Nike going from a physical goods company to the blockchain. But what we're talking about here is a blockchain company going from profile pictures in this community out to the physical goods world, right?
Exactly. So we're launching toys on May 18th. That will be kind of a worldwide launch. We've got collectibles also coming with a digital experience attached. And so it's like, we started on the blockchain. That's really great. That's fun. That's how we garnered our initial community, because the most difficult thing in any startup is how do you find those initial 5,000 champions of your brand? But we can expand way past that. And so when we go to launch on Amazon, when we go to launch in Walmart, right, like our community can champion those products.
And then, then the next great part about that, of course, is that you're then bringing the next, even though you're not forced to use an NFT, you're not forcing my grandma to pick up an NFT. She actually can if she wants to. You'll have QR codes and embedded NFTs and things like that, right?
Exactly. So our toys have a whole digital experience. From that, you'll get a toy. There'll actually be a birth certificate inside of every single toy. On that birth certificate is a little QR code. You'll scan that code. You'll go through our digital experience. You'll create a wallet without you actually knowing it's a wallet, right? We want to abstract this blockchain layer. Nobody cares about the blockchain. They just care that they can resonate with the character or the experience itself. They'll go through, they'll unbox their trait box, they'll get their forever Pudgy penguin, and then they'll participate in the digital experience with their friends. And so the thesis is, how do we abstract this stuff? How do we make it about the character? How do we make it about the brand? Because that's what people care about. That's what resonates.
I love it so much. Lorenzo, thank you so much for coming on stage here, buddy. Really, really good stuff. It's just, we wanted to do this because I wanted to tell that story. I wanted to tell a story about how crypto companies in general, this is not meant to be, if a company like Pudgy Penguins can move from a profile picture to toys on Amazon, literally anyone can do pretty much anything. It is remarkable.